Have you ever wondered, why can just one comment ruin your day? Why does a cold stare or a careless silence keep you up at night? Why do you always feel the need to react, to explain, to prove yourself? It's not because you're weak. It's because you haven't yet mastered your inner world. You can't control other people, but you can absolutely master yourself. And once you do, no one can hurt you. This video won't teach you how to become numb. It will show you how to become free. Free from manipulation. Free from old emotional scripts. Free from the invisible chains that still pull your strings when no one's watching. You are not truly bothered by others, you allow yourself to be bothered. People can say disrespectful things, ignore you, or treat you poorly, but it's the way you interpret those actions in your mind that creates anger, hurt, or a sense of inadequacy. Insults, judgment, or disregard do not inherently carry negative emotions, they are simply external events. What causes pain is your internal response to those events. You feel offended not because their words have real power, but because those words touch a vulnerable place inside you, an unhealed belief, an unseen wound. That's why two people can hear the same insult and react completely differently. One remains calm, the other erupts. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If something external hurts you, it's not the thing itself that harms you, but your judgment of it, and you have the power to erase the judgment at any moment." It is within that freedom that you begin to realize, no one can make you feel anything without your participation. Emotions don't happen to you, they happen from you. And when you truly grasp this, you reclaim something deeply valuable, emotional sovereignty. Reactions are not your fixed nature, they are habits formed over time. The negative emotions you often experience are not truly caused by the present moment, but rather by unconscious scripts deeply embedded in your mind. These are psychological patterns programmed from your past, from childhood, from moments of being criticized, abandoned, or made to feel not good enough. Those memories don't disappear. They quietly shape how you respond today. So when someone says something that seems dismissive or disrespectful, you're not just reacting to the words, you're reacting to the entire emotional history they awaken. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is why you explode without knowing why, feel hurt by small things, or keep repeating the same conflicts. But when you begin to observe, trace, and become aware of these patterns, only then do you truly have the power to choose, instead of living as a conditioned reflex. And it is in that space that you begin to rewrite your life. The space between stimulus and response is where your greatest power lies. Between an event and your reaction to it, there always exists a silent gap. This isn't an empty void, it's a sacred space, where you can pause, breathe, observe, and choose your response with clarity rather than instinct. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "In that space is our power to choose our response." In our response lies our growth and our freedom. When you are no longer a slave to automatic reactions, you become the master of yourself. You can choose calm instead of anger, silence instead of defensiveness, conscious action instead of blind reaction. And each time you choose from that place of awareness, you are building an inner strength that cannot be shaken, a life rooted in depth, sovereignty, and true freedom. An insult is not a wound, it is a mirror. A reflection. A mirror that turns inward, revealing precisely where you are still fragile, still dependent on validation, still afraid of being dismissed or unseen. It doesn't cause the pain, it awakens pain that already exists within you. We often mistake emotional hurt as something others inflict upon us. Someone makes a rude comment, a sarcastic jab, a dismissive glance, and instantly, your heart tightens, anger rises, or hurt spills over like a fresh cut. But look closer, the exact same words can make one person laugh, while another stews in resentment for days. Clearly, the issue isn't the words themselves, it's the one who receives them. An insult isn't an alarm from the outside world. Offense is not an alarm, it's a mirror. It doesn't necessarily mean someone else is wrong, it may mean there's something in me that needs to be seen. Maybe you're too attached to being perceived as smart, kind, or strong, so any slight doubt from someone else threatens that image and triggers a defense. Maybe you were ignored or belittled in the past, so now, when someone passes by without greeting you, it triggers a sense of invisibility. These emotional reactions are not about the moment, they're echoes of unhealed places within you. The more emotionally mature you become, the clearer this truth is. No one can make you feel inferior unless you already believe it at some level. A person with a solid foundation of inner confidence won't be easily shaken by criticism or disregard. But one still relying on external approval for self-worth will always feel threatened, quick to anger, quick to defend, because they are still defined by others' perceptions. That's why every time you feel insulted, instead of reacting, pause and ask, what inside me just got touched? This is the starting point of emotional sovereignty. When you realize that feelings are not commands, but messengers, that you don't have to react, you start living from awareness, not from habit. The mirror of offense can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is a gift. It shows you exactly where you still outsource your worth to the outside world. It teaches you that until your self-worth becomes self-sourced, you will always be vulnerable to a comment, a gesture, a tone of voice. You will always feel the need to defend, to prove, to protect, instead of simply standing in your own presence, still, grounded, unmoved. When you understand that offense is not an attack, but a test of your inner stability, you begin using it as a tool for self-evolution. Every time something stings, you turn inward, observe, heal, and rise, not through reaction, but through awareness. And one day, when someone tries to insult you, you won't feel hurt, you won't feel the need to argue or defend. you'll simply see, this says nothing about me. It shows me how far I've come. And in that moment, you've transcended. Emotional freedom is not about avoiding feelings, nor is it numbness or indifference to life. Emotional freedom is the state where you can fully feel everything, from pain to anger, without being ruled by it. It's when you are no longer manipulated by other people's words, actions, or emotions. No one holds the remote control to your inner state anymore. No cold glance, no harsh comment, no rejection has the power to drag you into self-doubt. You don't need anyone to apologize for you to feel at peace. You don't need anyone to understand you to feel worthy. You don't need anyone's validation to believe you are enough. Why? Because you've chosen something higher, peace that comes from within, not a reward handed to you by the outside world. Most people live their entire lives emotionally dependent, waiting for others to treat them well to feel deserving, waiting for an apology to release their pain, waiting for approval before they move forward. But when you live like that, you unknowingly surrender the control of your life to others. And suddenly, a single criticism ruins your whole day. One ignored message keeps you up all night. A cold glance makes you question everything. But true peace doesn't come from the outside, it is something you choose from within. As the saying goes, inner peace is something you choose, not something you're given. You choose not to react. You choose not to tie your worth to others' opinions. You choose not to let the world dictate your emotional state. When someone treats you with disrespect, you can look them in the eye and remain grounded, not because you're weak, but because you no longer need to retaliate. When someone doesn't understand you, you feel no urge to defend or explain, because you are already clear about who you are. When life doesn't go as planned, you don't collapse, because you know real power lies in how you rise. Emotional freedom is the foundation of a grounded life. It means you are no longer dragged by circumstances, no longer a puppet of the external world. You walk, you choose, you feel, all from a place of sovereignty and clarity. And when you live from that place, nothing truly shakes you anymore. Because you've stopped chasing control. You've started claiming authorship. Self-observation is the indispensable foundation of self-mastery. Without it, you live on autopilot, driven by emotions, manipulated by circumstances, and controlled by mental narratives you don't even realize you're believing. But the moment you pause to observe, you break the loop. You interrupt the pattern. You begin to see. You begin to become conscious. When a strong emotion arises, anger, hurt, envy, fear, instead of immediately acting on it, you can pause and ask, what part of me is speaking right now? It's a simple question, but profoundly powerful. It shifts your role from being swept away to becoming the observer. You might realize that the part speaking is an inner child who once felt abandoned. Or it's the prideful ego afraid of being disrespected. Or maybe it's fear of failure hiding behind the mask of, I'm fine. And only when you become aware of it, do you gain the power to respond, not react. Because the truth is, most people are not truly living in the present, they're reliving the past through their automatic reactions. A rejection today isn't just a rejection. It reactivates the old memory of not being chosen. An unfair moment now doesn't just hurt because of what happened, it resurrects the belief that, I never matter. And so they react intensely, defensively, painfully, but not because of now, rather because of what still lives unresolved inside. Self-observation is how you step out of that cycle. The more you observe yourself, the more you stop living as a machine running old programs. You begin to rewrite yourself, not letting the past hold the pen, but letting awareness do the writing. You stop saying things like, I'm just a hot-tempered person. I'm sensitive. I'm fragile, because you realize, those aren't your true self. They're just patterns you've learned to survive. And you can absolutely change. But change doesn't begin by forcing yourself to be better. It begins by seeing clearly, understanding deeply, and judging nothing. When you practice observing yourself every day, in your conversations, reactions, and thoughts, you gradually step out of the old roles. You're no longer a victim of the mind. You become the navigator. The one who discerns. The one who consciously recreates yourself, moment by moment. And from that foundation of observation, a new life begins to form, deeper, freer, more authentic. No longer ruled by old scripts. No longer reacting blindly. But living with awareness, with authorship, with inner depth. That is the true beginning of self-mastery. You're not too sensitive, you're just not asking yourself the right question yet. We often react strongly to what others say or do, and then label ourselves as too emotional, too soft, or think, I should toughen up. But the problem isn't how sensitive you are, the real issue is your level of self-awareness. You shouldn't be asking, why did they do that? You should be asking, why did that affect me so deeply? The first question turns your attention outward. It puts you in a passive position, waiting for others to change so you can feel okay. The second question brings you inward, the only place where real power and freedom begin. For example, someone forgets to thank you. You feel irritated. The surface level question is, why are they so ungrateful? But the deeper question is, why does a lack of acknowledgement hurt me this much? Maybe you tie your self-worth to recognition. Maybe you were often overlooked in the past, and this moment reactivates that old wound. When you ask the right question, you stop orbiting around others' behavior, and start looking directly at your inner patterns. And that's where you begin to reclaim your personal power. You no longer need the world to shift so you can feel balanced. You shift the way you perceive the world, and that liberates you. The right question doesn't just calm you, it grows you. Every time you ask with awareness, without judgment, you're practicing a form of freedom that no one can take away from you, the freedom to choose how you interpret, how you respond, and how you move forward. This path isn't always easy, but it is the only path toward true self-mastery. Stillness is a form of ultimate strength, a strength that doesn't need noise to prove itself, doesn't need to win to feel worthy, and doesn't need to be understood to exist. In a world filled with arguments, quick reactions, and the constant pressure to say something back, the one who can remain silent, who can stay still in the middle of the storm, is the one with the deepest inner power. We've been conditioned to think that strength lies in action. You must respond, you must explain, you must prove yourself, you must win. But that's a strength born from ego, a strength that is reactive, fragile, and easily lost. It depends on whether you win or lose, whether you're right or wrong, accepted or rejected. True strength, on the other hand, lies in stillness, in the unwavering knowing of who you are, without needing to prove it. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs to be clarified. Not every battle is worth entering. You remain silent not because you're weak, but because you've risen above the need to be validated by others. You don't react because you understand that reaction is often just a disturbance within. You don't need to win, because your peace is no longer tied to being right. Stillness is not passivity. It is a conscious choice. A deliberate act of protecting your energy, maintaining your clarity, and refusing to be dragged into conflicts that don't serve your growth. Stillness is the space you create between stimulus and response, the space where you retain your power, instead of handing it over to the world. When you choose stillness, you're saying, I will not let the outside world dictate the state of my inner world. I don't need to win in anyone's eyes, I only need to overcome myself. I choose to guard my energy instead of wasting it on what has no value. In stillness, you gain the ability to observe rather than react. You begin to see the true motivation behind a harsh word, a cold stare, or a difficult situation. You are not swept away by emotions. You step back, stay rooted, and respond, if needed, from a place of wisdom. Stillness also communicates. A calm look, a composed silence in a loud room, can speak louder than 100 justifications. When you don't react, others are left to confront their own behavior. When you don't retaliate, they are forced to face why they attacked in the first place. In that way, stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting back what they haven't yet faced in themselves. And in those moments, you learn something important. Not every voice deserves your answer. Not every act of disrespect is worth trading your peace for. Sometimes, maturity means not acting out of emotion, but only moving when something is truly necessary and meaningful. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Inner strength is the ability to remain calm when everything around you is falling apart." And that calmness only arises when you no longer play the ego's game, where everything is about winning, proving, being seen. Stillness is a quiet kind of power. It doesn't need affirmation. It doesn't seek attention. It exists like a mountain, grounded, quiet, unmoved by storms. Each time you choose stillness over anger, you lay another stone in the foundation of your strength. Each time you stay silent with clarity, you build a power no external force can shake. And eventually, you're no longer triggered by small things. You no longer need to have the last word. You no longer need to prove anything. You simply show up, fully, firmly, peacefully. In your presence, in your energy, in your gaze. No words needed, yet people will feel it. You are not easily moved. And that is the true strength of a soul that has mastered itself. You don't need to control everything. You only need to master yourself. Life will always be chaotic. People will misunderstand you, judge you, praise you one day and turn their backs the next. There will always be things beyond your reach, beyond your influence, beyond logic. And if you keep trying to control every unpredictable change in the outside world, you'll live in constant stress, disappointment, and exhaustion. But you don't have to control it all. You only need to control one thing, yourself. Don't chase after praise just to feel worthy. Don't shrink in the face of criticism to protect your pride. Don't lose your direction just because someone fails to recognize your value. You don't need everyone to understand you, approve of you, or treat you fairly. You only need to stand firm in how you think, how you act, and what you choose to believe. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Concern yourself only with what is within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs. You cannot control other people's emotions. You cannot control whether they love or hate you. You cannot control rumors, opinions, or how the world sees you. But you absolutely can control how you respond, how you speak to yourself, and how you keep moving forward. The external world is like a storm, but you are the one steering the ship. Everything around you may shift, but your inner strength doesn't have to waver. You don't need to make everything peaceful, you only need to be at peace within yourself. From that place, you no longer live like a leaf blown by the wind. You live like a rooted tree, grounded, unshaken, still amidst the storm. That is resilience. That is freedom. And that is true power. Old scripts are chains. Observe them, break them, and you will be free. Many people think they are living as their true selves, when in reality, they're living out unconscious scripts written during childhood. They don't act from conscious choice, but react from old programming, shaped by family, society, past wounds, or inherited beliefs they've never questioned. Have you ever wondered why you always get angry when ignored? Why you feel not good enough when criticized? Or why you constantly push yourself to overachieve just to feel accepted? These emotional patterns aren't random, they're echoes of an old inner script. I'm not enough. I must be perfect to be loved. I need to meet expectations to avoid rejection. The reactions you keep repeating, defensiveness, people-pleasing, self-blame, avoidance, are not your true self. They are habits. They are coping mechanisms you once learned to survive in earlier environments. The problem is, you've grown, your circumstances have changed, but the script hasn't. And those unconscious patterns are exactly what's holding you back from living freely, authentically, and fully. Old scripts are chains, but you are not a prisoner forever. You can observe them. You can expose them. And you can break them. When emotions rise, instead of getting swept away, step back and ask, where is this reaction really coming from? You may realize you're not responding to the present moment, but reliving an old fear. You may discover your anger isn't about the person in front of you, it's about being unable to say no earlier. Only when you're conscious enough to see this can you finally step out of the cycle. You can't write a new chapter if you keep letting the old script hold the pen. But you can reclaim the pen through awareness. And when you do that, you stop performing. You no longer play the role of someone who is always strong, always fine, always holding it together. You begin to live truthfully, sometimes soft, sometimes silent, but always real. Living truthfully doesn't mean being perfect. It means not pretending. It means no longer trying to fit in. It means daring to face the unhealed parts of yourself, and choosing to heal, rather than to hide. Freedom doesn't come from fixing the world out there. Freedom begins when you start dismantling the scripts inside you. And the first thing you must do is this: face them. Without denial, without judgment. Because only when you see the chains can you begin to remove them. And only when you remove them can you truly begin to live. You don't need to become cold in order to stop getting hurt. You only need to become sovereign within. Because when you learn to observe instead of react, when you realize offense is a mirror, not a wound. When you stop performing the old scripts and begin rewriting yourself. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear judgment. You are no longer at the mercy of the outside world. You become a quiet force that nothing can shake. And from that place, you don't just survive. You lead yourself. No one can harm you, unless you hand them the weapon. Take it back. Reclaim your power. Choose freedom.